Okay. Let's do it. This episode is sponsored by Linode. Linode is offering listeners of this podcast a $20 credit, which is good for 4 free months at their lowest plan. Their plans start at 1 gigabyte of RAM for $5 a month. You can get your servers in any of their 10 data centers, and their high memory plans start at 16 gigabytes. Get a server running in under a minute. They do hourly billing with a monthly cap on all plans and add-on services like backups, node balancers, Longview, etc. VMs for full control, running Docker containers, encrypted disks, VPNs, etc. You can run a private Git server. They provide native SSD storage, 200 gigabit network, and Intel E5 processors. They have 24/7 friendly support, even on holidays, and a 7-day money-back guaranteed. So go check them out at linode.com/JavaScript Jabber. Hey everybody, and welcome to another JavaScript Jabber show. This week on our panel we have Amiee Knight.
Hello from Nashville.
I'm Charles Max Wood from devchat.tv, and this week we have a special guest, and that's JC Hiatt. JC, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone.
Do you want to give us a brief introduction to who you are, since we haven't had you on the show before?
Sure. So I live in Jackson, Mississippi, and my day job is software consulting. I mostly work with early stage startups from here and from around, and then kind of in the afternoons and nights and weekends, and really every moment of every day, I am getting a company called DevLifts started.
Oh, nice. What does DevLift do?
So DevLifts is it's what happened to me, but turned into a company. So a couple of years ago, I started kind of getting into fitness and getting a hold on my health. And this year, I decided that I wanted to help developers learn, other developers experience the same thing and learn to live healthier lives.
Nice. Now, I know that Amy's excited about this particular topic and episode.
Yes.
She's mentioned it a few times on the show, both during and before or after the show. And personally, I have some interest in this as well. I mean, I have type 2 diabetes. I don't know. I've probably mentioned it on the show before, and I've been doing some things to take care of that. But it's interesting because a lot of times we focus so much on the career or the job or the code or what we do at our desk that we don't think about sort of the lifestyle or the people that, we're doing it for, right? Mm-hmm. And so if that, it could come down to family life and things like that, or, supporting a lifestyle to where we can stay healthy and live a better life, right? So we don't have some of the health issues that come out of sitting at a desk all day long. Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, really, you have to think of it just like you would programming. Anything, whatever you put in is going to affect what you get out, right? And if you think of your job and just kind of managing your day-to-day life as output, rather than just, if you start thinking of that as output, then you start thinking of, what is the common factor that's contributing the input here, and it's you. If you start taking care of what's going into you, you're going to be able to have even better output, and so it's kind of like you're almost diminishing the focus on those things that would be output, like your work, by not focusing on yourself, your health.
I know. I always just say I'm like shocked at how many problems I'm able to work through on my runs in the morning. If I ever have like a complex, there's one thing like, you have a task that at hand, like bug or something else, and you know exactly what the problem is and go in there and fix it. But on these more complex issues that you have sometimes, I'm just amazed, like how many times I've been able to work through the problems on my run. Like I know they say a lot of times like sleep on it, which helps, but I don't know. I always seem to solve the problem.
Yeah. And for me, it's hitting the gym and just kind of, if I've struggled with a problem all morning, I'm just going to take the afternoon off, go to the gym and see what I come up with the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard some different things. I don't know how much of this has science behind it, but some of it just comes down to, you start getting active and it increases blood flow and changes your brain chemistry. I've also heard that just changing the space that you're in changes your mental space. And both of those things contribute to, what you're talking about, Amiee, with kind of getting that inspiration, because your brain isn't locked into the cycle that it was in while you were staring at the code on your screen, because you're in a new space and you're doing something different and stimulating your brain in a different way.
And they always say too, like, so much of what we do has like a little bit of a creative aspect to it, not like creative as in design, but you're like designing systems. When I say design, I mean like making things look nice on the screen, but I'm saying like designing systems. And in order to, think more clearly and come up with like new ideas, how there's so much research out there about how important it is to have like downtime mentally.
Yep.
Yeah, we can only hold so much in our minds at one point, and taking a step back and trying to actually let your mind wander even sometimes and explore other areas of your life actually has benefits in the other areas, like programming or whatever else it may be in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I've also heard things put the other way, right, where we're talking about kind of getting a mental break or a brain break, but I've also heard a lot of people talk about just mental clarity out of being healthy, right? And so your physical health and where you're at in turn serves the process of using your mind to do your work. And so you run into things like, so I've been doing the ketogenic diet. That's, I've lost about 30 pounds. My diabetes numbers are under much better control. I'll admit I don't work out regularly. That's something that I'm working on, but just that much, I feel a ton better. And there are a lot of people that feel like as they get onto this particular eating pattern, that they get more clarity and things like that. And I wonder how much of that is the fact that they're not eating things that cause certain types of inflammation in their brain versus as well just being in better shape and having better circulation and just benefiting from overall being healthy and having that serve into, the organ that you have sitting at the top of your neck.
Yeah. So, I mean, Keto Diet is great. I cycle through it at least once a year. I just did it over the summer when I was getting ready for a Spartan race. And we actually assign it to a good number of our customers. But the cool thing about, and I mean, even keto specifically, is it's first off, any diet, you're going to get the benefits from. Well, now at least you have a little bit of restriction, and you're not eating as, maybe as much junk or as processed foods as you were before, because you're having to be more conscious about your food. Even having a diet makes you more conscious about your food. And so not eating, there's the effect of not eating junk or as much junk as you were before, which definitely will help reduce some inflammation, give you some higher energy levels and things like that. But then with keto specifically, there's certain, this is, I think this is still being researched, but I think it's a thing. And there's this idea of metabolic type. And so, people have, people's metabolisms actually favor certain things over other things. And so, in someone's case who maybe their body favors fat for energy over carbs, then as soon as you start on a keto diet, then as soon as you hit ketosis, which if for the listeners that don't know what that is, it's basically where instead of using carbs for your energy, your liver is converting fat into ketones, and the ketones are being consumed as energy in the place of carbs. If your metabolic type is favoring fat, then you would feel even better from keto to where it's not just benefiting you just because you're not eating junk, but it's also benefiting you because it's the best type of diet for your body specifically.
Yeah, and I can tell you that for me, it's worked out really nicely.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Yeah, that's awesome, man.
So one thing I've started doing is count, not super carefully, but just trying to be better about counting my macros. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I guess let's take a step back and talk about macros. I'm
shortcuts in Emacs, right? Macros.
Right. I'm not going. I don't want to assume that everyone just knows what that is, because I didn't. Just 2 years ago, I was like, "What's a macro?" I had to be educated. So macros, we're gonna have macronutrients is really what the term is, and you have macronutrients, micronutrients, and your macros are the three in really three major categories. You have carbs, fats, and proteins. Two of those three are essential, meaning your body cannot produce them on its own, and that would be protein and fat. Carbs can actually be produced in the liver. Enough carbs can be produced by your body in the liver to where you don't need carbs in order to survive. So when people talk about macros, and especially like macro ratios and stuff like that, it's really discussing what amounts of each of those groups do you need to take in on your diet. So everyone has conflicting views. There's conflicting information everywhere. And honestly, it's very subjective. There's a lot of factors in there, and one of them would be, in my opinion, your metabolic type, and also just like your, how practical something is for you. But as far as counting your macros, I would say that was your original question, right, Amy? Just you're talking about the ketogenic diet, and I'm saying, how is that in comparison to just like counting your macros? Yeah. So the ketogenic diet specifically does involve counting macros. At least one macro, you're going to count your carb intake, because to be a ketogenic diet, it has to be under 100 grams of carbs a day. So you're going to use something like MyFitnessPal, or maybe you just read the label, whatever. I love MyFitnessPal. I think it's awesome. But whatever works for you. That is an app, by the way. That's a great app. But that to be a keto diet, you've got to at least count the carbs. So you're making sure you're not taking in more than 100 grams of carbs a day. And that's because to get into the state where your body is no longer using carbs for energy, but is instead using fat, that state is called ketosis. To get to that state, you have to limit your carb consumption, or your body will continue to use your carbs for energy. So the higher amounts of, the closer you are to that 100 grams a day, the longer it will take for you to actually adjust to ketosis. Now,
I'll just throw in here because, since I've been doing this for the past few months, now my metabolic system has taken such a beating because I've been diabetic for 10 years, that I actually have to go less than like 20 or 30 grams of carbs per day. And then, you also have to watch your protein, because as you said, your liver can manufacture glucose out of the protein. And so, you also keep your protein low, and then everything else is fat. So,
and it's a lot of, especially in keto, like it's an emphasis on fat. So, there is a lot of kind of marketing stuff out there, and some kind of misconceptions and myths about fat is just bad, or some people think carbs are just bad, and people jump to these extremes. I mean, we jump to extremes in everything. I mean, even JavaScript libraries, whatever it is, everyone jumps to extremes. We just tend to do that as people. My specific flavor of keto that I like to do is actually has a 30 gram limit each day, and it's really just enough to get protein shakes in, because it's essentially an all meat diet and protein shakes. It's just to make you extremely anabolic, or make you extremely like susceptible to muscle growth. That's what I love to do once a year. But you see, even there, you can kind of see how subjective things are. It's like, for me, my goal, once a year, I love to just like put on a ton of muscle. In your case, with being a diabetic, you have certain things to take into account, and that's not goal oriented like mine. It's it's just limited by your health itself, and so you can already see how this is subjective. And we haven't even talked about preferences. Like what do you like to eat? What do you don't like to eat?
Well, getting into that subjective stuff, I mean, we talked about, supporting brain function and supporting your work and things like that, maybe supporting a specific lifestyle. But what are you finding that people are generally after with this kind of a thing? Is it for me, I just want to be healthy. I want to be around for my kids. I don't want to have a heart attack. And, I'm almost 40. Mm-hmm. So, I don't want to have a heart attack in the next 10 years kind of thing. And that's kind of the bottom line, right? Ultimately, I'd like to be in good enough shape to, chase my kids around and go play soccer with them and, stuff like that, which is, we're moving up the ladder a little bit. But what's the motivation for most people or maybe most developers as far as this goes? Are they looking to increase that capacity that they have for their work, or are they looking for other lifestyle benefits that have nothing to do with code?
Yeah. So far in all the conversations we've had, there's always that kind of base. Like, I don't want to die. Like, I want to, actually, I don't want to die of a heart attack by the time I'm like 30 or 40. I want to, either have a family or start a family and, and be able to go places with my kids and have fun and stuff. And so there's that. The next level up that, I do hear a lot is I just have low energy. Like, my sleep sucks, and I feel kind of, I feel like this like little cloud sitting on my mind sometimes, where I'm just having trouble thinking clearly. And now some of that stuff is situational. If you're working at some kind of like marketing agency where they're making you like context switch every like 30 minutes to a new project, then like some of that stuff I can't help you with. And fitness plan's not going to help you with, but there is definitely substance to wanting to get into fitness just for the sake of like improving your sleep quality and improving your ability to think so you can be more productive. And then there's kind of that level, and it is in tiers. Like, there's less, it's kind of a little pyramid, like less and less people on each level. And I would love to see people just kind of advancing up these tiers eventually. But there's that next tier, which is, well, I want to try something new. Like, I want to do a Spartan race, or I want to run a marathon, or I want to deadlift 500 pounds, like, whatever it may be. That's where things get really fun, especially with being able to make those plans for people is, they have these very specific goals. We have one customer. Scott Tolinsky, I don't know if you know who he is. He's a co-host of Syntax, a podcast with Wes Boss. And he is actually a break dancer. And he told us he wants to be able to do air flares, which is like this, and it's a certain move that requires a lot of like explosive upper body strength and stuff. And so making workouts very specific to, Scott, to where he can start to develop some explosivity in those muscles, so he can actually do that. Like, that's where it gets really fun. Yeah, we've kind of seen the whole gamut, but by and large, most people are just saying, hey, I'm just not feeling great. I'm not liking what I see in the mirror. Like, I just want to, I want to look better. I want to feel better. And honestly, that's like, if everyone only wants to do that, then that's great. Because that's ultimately the goal here, is to help people be healthy. And then if they want to do something more, if they want more out of it, as a hobby, then help them get there.
So I'm going to ask one more question. I'm sure that Amiee has a bunch of things she wants to bring up too, but just to what you said, where a lot of people are saying I have low energy or I don't feel good. I think a lot of us understand, as far as, looking better in the mirror, that it's just going to take a bit of time doing the right things to get there. But as far as the energy goes, it seems like there should be some things that people can do right away that can at least start making a difference in that area. Have you found that, you tell people get an hour more sleep, or, spend 20 minutes more being active or something like that pays off for that, just to get rolling before you really get in too deep in this stuff?
Yeah, definitely. There's some common, even baby steps that people can take immediately, without getting a fitness plan, without getting a gym membership, all that kind of stuff, that can immediately start to help, help these things. And so first off, take a walk, at least once a day, twice a day if you can, and if you want to go more, go for it. But an early morning walk, like right after breakfast, or even right before breakfast, for even as far as you can, that's practical for you. So don't worry about the distance necessarily. If we've seen some people that they can't walk more than a quarter mile, or they're just gonna have to get a shower, like another shower or something, before they go to work. But then there's other people who they want to get up and run 5 miles before they go to work. So wherever you are in that, just move, is the point. Start moving. And if you want to worry about your distance, gradually improve it. Take 10 extra steps a day until you've made it 3 times from where you started or something. But the point is move. The body was made to move, and we're not moving it in our chairs. We're made to move.
Just an anecdote here. A friend of mine, Cliff Ravenscraft, he has a podcast, podcastanswerman.com. For 6 months or a year, all he did was go for a walk for 30 minutes every day.
Yeah.
And he lost 40 or 50 pounds and started feeling really, really good. And so, I like the idea of, hey, you got 20 minutes, go for a walk every day, and it doesn't matter how far you go, but you'll feel better because you're moving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and a lot of people, if just being generally healthy and or maybe even weight loss or something like that is kind of your main goal, the walking will help. And the next thing, just learning to read nutrition labels, learning about macros, and kind of, for the most part, just trying to eat whole foods, meaning, as much as possible, try to eat things that haven't really been changed much from, or at all since they were harvested, or, whatever. I'm not really sure what the word is for, but since, things that don't go through a plant or something like that, things that are just kind of as nature gave them. And in that, you can learn to read those nutrition labels, and you can try to start playing with your macro ratios and seeing where you can even research your own, where a good baseline is for you, and then just start playing with it. And then you can even pack your lunch. If you go to work, pack your lunch. It'll keep you from going out. You can probably eat it and take a walk in your lunch period, and save money from eating out, and not go potentially go out with friends and end up eating something that maybe isn't going to be great for you. But
lunch recess.
Yeah. What's that?
Lunch recess.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, nutrition is, key. Nutrition is number one. If you are just looking to, in my opinion, if you're just looking to start feeling better, immediately, and have some maybe weight loss benefits, nutrition and taking a walk will get you pretty far.
Abs are made in the kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are. I mean, you've got to, if you don't have abs, then you will need to do some workouts so that you'll actually be showing them.
I was going to say, I have abs. I just can't find them.
Yeah. I mean, the saying is everyone has a beautiful six pack. You just got to find them. It's, but yeah, Amy's completely right. It's pretty much 90% kitchen, but, yeah, I mean, there's some other things I could go on, about some general things, but I don't want to, I want to let you guys ask more questions, instead of just rambling on with more advice.
Well, I asked all my fatty questions, and I figure Amy's going to ask all the I'm in super great shape questions. So go ahead, Amy.
Well, I have kind of a different question, maybe to steer the conversation back a little bit to what we were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah.
So, coming into this industry as somebody who was a professional athlete before I became a developer, I kind of grew up in an environment, especially in figure skating, you have to be pretty tiny, where I was always kind of watching my diet and that kind of thing. And, I walk into a programming meetup or I go to a conference and my backpack is full of protein bars and fruit and nuts. And everybody is, not everybody, but I will get a lot of strange faces. And there's kind of like, there is a little bit of like a culture of like, it's cool to, drink lots of sugar and soda and pizza. And
well, they actually serve it at the lunches at the conferences. I mean, I went to VMworld and it's like, here you go. It's this big plate of rice and, with a sweet sauce that goes on it, and you can have as much Coke as you want.
Yeah. So I guess my question, I don't even know if I have a question, but I just kind of wanted to maybe talk about this a little bit. Like, how do you handle it if you get like strange looks or something like that? Because I try to be like, if the person next to me wants, a couple pieces of pizza and a regular Coke, like, go for it. That's them. I respect their decision, and, but I would hope in turn that people would respect, my decision. So how do you kind of handle that?
As a developer, you love building things that are fun and that matter. Do you want to add authentication to yet another app? Do you want to stay updated with all the security issues and patch them? Why not leave it to the experts? Auth0 is the easiest and fastest way to implement real-world authentication and authorization architectures into your apps and APIs. Allow your users to log in with either regular username and password, social identity providers like Facebook and Twitter, enterprise identity providers such as Active Directory, Office 365, etc., or without passwords with an email login like Slack or phone login like WhatsApp. Getting started is easy. Add authentication to your JavaScript frontend, React, Angular, Vue, and others, or Node.js API in less than 10 minutes by writing only a few lines of code. No credit card required. Get the free plan or try the enterprise plan for 21 days at auth0.io/JSJabber. That's auth0 with the 0. Auth0 is trusted by developers at Atlassian, Mozilla, Bluetooth, Optimizely, Financial Times, and the Wall Street Journal. Try it out at auth0.io/JSJabber. That's auth0 with the number 0, and get back time building core features.
Well, first off, this requires I think some kind of a mindset change. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you are responsible for you, your actions, your what you chose to put in your body, what came out of your mouth, like whatever it is, like you're responsible for you. You're not responsible for anyone else necessarily. I mean, to an extent, maybe your children, things like that. But like, you're not responsible for the guy next to you that wants to eat the pizza and Coke. And if he wants to do that, go for it. Like there's no, necessarily like any shaming that. There's just, and I mean, I'm not going to like try to put on some kind of front. Like, I love pizza so much. Right. I'm very selective about when and how much I eat. And but the first thing is, a mindset change of I'm responsible for me, and I'm making whatever decisions you're making, whether it's you pack some protein bars or you're just gonna drink water or whatever it is, instead of the Coke. Like, you're responsible for you, and you're not going to worry about what someone thinks about that. So, I mean, prime example, the audience isn't going to be able to see this, but this big gallon jug of water, which I have.
That doesn't look like water.
It's water and branched chain amino acids.
Nice.
They're good for muscle recovery.
For those of you who can't see it, it looks like fabric softener.
It probably tastes amazing, though.
So I have some. I mean, I've been carrying this around pretty much every day for the past 2 years. I drink at least one of these a day, and I get weird looks. But like after a certain point, you don't care, because you've heard all the jokes about, oh, you're carrying Windex, or you're carrying windshield washer fluid or whatever, and it's just like, haha, that's funny, and then you just kind of shrug it off. Maybe I have thick skin. I don't know, but the point is, like, I do that every day because I know that drinking a gallon of water a day just helps me feel really good. It keeps me from I love soda. I used to in high school, before I got into fitness, I was drinking like over 100 ounces of soda a day. And if I let myself go, like, if I don't have this water with me, I know that I'm going to be much more susceptible to like just being like, oh, well, it's only one Coke, I'll just drink the Coke. And like, there's nothing wrong with having the Coke. Like, if you want the Coke, have the Coke. But the point is, I have a self-control issue with soda. And so if I like let myself go, in the right context, like, who knows how much soda I'll drink. And I don't like how I feel when I drink soda. like, even though I love soda itself, I don't like how I feel when I drink soda. So I carry this around so that I'm just drinking it. I also save money. I go to my local coffee shop and I don't order anything. They don't care. They like, I've been going there for like a decade. But like, I go there and just kind of to work, and I get plenty of weird looks, but at the end of the day, I'm responsible for myself. And that's kind of the mindset you have to have.
One other thing I'll just add to this is that, so I mentioned I'm doing keto, which is super low carb, and I probably have pizza every week. And so there are options out there. I think a lot of people think, oh, well, if I go do a diet, I have to do something really drastic, right?
Nope.
Same thing with your drink, right? It's, oh, well, if I quit soda, then I have to find something drastic to replace it with. And
Absolutely.
the answer is
moderation.
Well, and so stay tuned for my picks. I'll tell you what kind of pizza I'm eating. It's totally low carb, and it fits right in with the keto diet. And yeah, so
is it a pizza?
No,
I think I might know. Okay, well, I've got a recipe for you. It's amazing, but I'll share it later.
I'll love you all the more if it's so good.
It's a turkey pizza with 0 carbs.
Oh, nice.
It is amazing. Yeah,
the pizza I eat has about 4 carbs in it, or 4 grams of carbs in it. But anyway, but yeah, and the way I found it was through community, right? So I joined a ketogenic community, and I joined the forum, and I listened to a podcast or two, and so I found places where people were congregating and talking about this. And then I wasn't the weirdo. I was the, hey, you've all been doing this for years and I haven't. Can you help me out? And everyone's like, yeah. And so, I guess the point that I was trying to make initially was you don't have to give up everything you like just to live healthy. You can usually find a way to have both, and you just need to figure out where people are talking about how to do that.
Yeah, it's what Amiee said. It's learning how to moderate yourself.
Yeah.
How to know when you when you need water and when you and not Coke, or when it's okay to have that Coke. Side note, I would just stay away from soda as much as possible. Whether you love it or not, I love it, and I still just think it's terrible for us.
But diet soda, right? Diet.
Oh, Coke Zero is my jam. But I still have to it. It still makes me feel bad compared to just drinking water.
Yeah.
But yes, you don't have to jump to extremes. There are actually really, really balanced, even looser than they probably should be, diets out there. And the point is, you can take small steps and just start drinking a gallon of water a day, or just cut your Coke consumption by half for the next month, and just see what happens. You don't have to just dive in headlong. When you want to, there are communities like DevLifts and other companies out there that will gladly bring you in and help you get to wherever you want to be. But you don't have to just dive in headlong on day one. You can take small steps.
Yeah, Amiee, you had something to add to this too.
Yeah, I wanted to add, so we're talking about the ketogenic diet. My big thing is I try to stay away from sugar. And one thing I've really noticed is, and I've even kind of just in the past year, especially I've started getting into CrossFit. So my diet is changing up a little bit, but I used to have a very calculated cheat day once a week. And it was always super shocking to me that I would just eat tons and tons of carbs, a lot more sugar than I would normally eat. And then weekends are also kind of my time to play around with new technology and, just work on different things. And I actually felt, especially if I did my cheat day on Saturday, by the afternoon on Saturday, I felt like I couldn't think clearly. I felt super foggy on Sunday. So, I honestly feel like my diet, when I stay away from sugar and tons of carbs, I used to eat carbs, I just don't overdo it. I just think a lot more clearly. So for me, it the way I look is a side effect. I've never gone for that. It's all about how can I get my body to perform its best?
Yeah. And it's if you put bad fuel into a car, it doesn't run as well. Kind of the same thing with your brain or your body, right? You put all that sugar and crap in there and yeah, everything just kind of goes.
Yeah, I mean, sugar specifically. I think let's see if I can dig up some research on it and share it. Sugar specifically can act as a neurotoxin.
Oh, really?
I mean, literally a brain poison to a degree. I heard that. See if I can dig up the info on that and share it. But yeah, I mean, sugar has its place for certain types of people, certain athletes, certain body types. It has its place, but
yeah, but they're using it strategically. You're talking about just the everyday person,
right? I mean, yeah, absolutely. There's sugar in at least here in the West, we have sugar in everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think even something like just normal bread has like sugar and stuff in it. I don't know if
normal
there's anything
bread is sugar.
Or so yeah, I think we love carbs in the West, and we specifically love sugar in the West. Maybe in the East too. I don't know. I've never been in the East, so I can't really speak to that.
So yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about this, but I also just I want to make sure that people feel like this is something that they can do, that it's something approachable. I think a lot of people, they look at this and it's like, oh my gosh, I have to go to Weight Watchers and I have to count how many points are in my food, or, and so it's this drastic lifestyle thing. And I guess keto's kind of that way too. I did a lot of research before I actually started doing it. But, just making this approachable, we're talking about going and walking 20 minutes a day. We're talking about, just cutting your sugar or cutting it in half, cutting out soda, which is something that I need to do. I'm super addicted to Diet Dr. Pepper. But, I mean, whatever that thing is for you, just taking that step, and it doesn't have to be a massive step, but I know a lot of people, they cut sugar. Like they just switched to the diet version of whatever soda they were drinking, and then they quit eating as much garbage, and they felt a ton better. And so it can be a small step.
Yeah, it can absolutely be a small step. And I mean, there's other even smaller things you can do, even that are even smaller than, cutting your sugar in half and stuff. I mean, even learning how to just get up once every, 60 to 90 minutes for say 1 minute, 2 minutes, and just kind of stretch. One of the things that's happening to us as sitters is our muscle, like we have certain muscles that are shortening, which can actually be debilitating as we age, and make us more prone to injury. Even in simple things like getting on the floor and playing with kids, you might pull something just because your muscles have shortened over time.
I've done that.
Yeah, I mean it's common, and specifically for us, we're sitting. Usually, I mean, I can actually get annoying with people if they wanted me to, that are sitting next to me, and like I can just tell them every time they're slouching over and putting extra pressure on their lower back, that's ultimately going to cause them to have an arch, later in life, or kind of like a crouched over. But even paying attention to your posture when you are sitting, and then the sitting itself, getting up, because what's happening is we're always in this position where we're sitting here. So our hip flexors, that is responsible for making our legs come up to our hips. So, when you're sitting, your legs are obviously not extended, and they kind of come up to be parallel with your hips. So those flexor muscles end up shortening over time. And then we're also kind of reaching to a degree, like we have our hands out in front of us on our keyboard. And so your pec muscles, right in the chest and shoulder area, kind of the outer pecs, those start to shorten. I had a huge problem with this when I first got into fitness. I just had like pain when I would try like a bench press or something. And it was because I needed to get some more range of motion back in those muscles. And so I started working with my chiropractor to get that back. But it's simple things like learning to just get up, stretch those pec muscles. Like getting up will help stretch your hip flexors. And then you can get more targeted with it. Like do some like if you want to go to a gym, or, after hours at home, if you want to do some specific stretches for your pecs or your hip flexors, you can do that. But yeah, getting up once every hour and a half is even smaller of a step than cutting your sugar in half, and it will still have great benefits for you.
Yep. Now, since there are only 3 of us, I'm gonna push it a little bit as far as time and picks go, because one other area that I don't think we talk as much about, but seems to make a big difference for me, is sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So, what, do you have recommendations for sleep? I mean, some days I just get sucked into code and I'll stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning coding, and then I wind up paying for it for a couple of days. And then a lot of times I'll go short on sleep because I've got a lot to do, and then I feel like that also costs me sometimes.
Yeah. So with sleep is a huge something that I'll tell you my ideal, but I'll also tell you like where like I actually am at the moment. So there's a few things that kind of go into sleep, and I'm by no means an expert on sleep itself, but I have learned a lot about at least how to get better sleep. First off is just stimulation of your brain. So basically within an hour and a half to 2 hours of when you plan to go to sleep, if you're still looking at a screen or doing something that is stimulating your is it alpha or I actually can't remember at the moment. So you kind of have different types of brain waves, right? And there's the faster brain waves that are kind of like I think it's alpha waves, but I can't say for certain right now. But basically, the kind of waves that are kind of are activated when you're looking at white light, when you're thinking faster thoughts, stuff like that. Because you have the beta state, which is more of like meditative or slow thoughts, more focused. That's kind of like that flow state, is getting into a state of beta where you're honed in on one thing and everything else is just kind of blocked out. So the more that you have stimulus on your mind and your brain through the form of, for most of us, screens, the less quality your sleep is going to be within that 2 hour window before you're going to go to sleep. Secondly is caffeine consumption. So if you can help it, like try to hop off of caffeine within 4 or 5 hours of when you plan to go to sleep, if you want to get the best possible sleep. Another thing is light. So we even some people think that like putting a mask on, which is a good step, is enough. But light, our skin actually has photoreceptors. So our skin actually even can detect light, and our sleep patterns and brain waves can be interrupted by light hitting our skin even. And so if you want the best possible sleep, like my ideal is to have blackout curtains, tape over any kind of, like I have like a router on a shelf and stuff, like tape over those lights, to where it's pitch black, where I can't see my hand in front of me. Like that's the ideal if you want the best possible sleep, is like you look in front of you and you can't see your own hands like right in front of your face. Mm-hmm. So there's that. And then there's like controversy about this, but it can't hurt. So you also have like all of these different radio waves and stuff, electromagnetic waves going on from cell phones, Wi-Fi, all this stuff. And you actually can buy what's basically like a Faraday cage that's like a net that can go around your bed that actually blocks electromagnetic waves as you sleep. There's actually even special beds, like bed frames and stuff, that don't conduct electromagnetic waves. You can get you can nerd out on this pretty extensively. But in general, those are kind of like ideal scenarios. Where I am currently, and I'm still getting, I feel like I'm getting pretty good, probably better sleep than most, is we do have, as much as I can help it, a pitch dark room. We haven't gotten blackout curtains yet. So there's a little bit of light coming in through our blinds, but it's barely noticeable. I've put tape over any kind of blinking LED to where we can't see it. And then as much as possible, I try not to be looking at a screen within about an hour of when I'm going to go to sleep. Even watching TV, any of that kind of stuff, just try to sit in bed and read or talk to my wife or something. And then also I've been experimenting very recently with waking up at 4:30. And instead of
that's what time I get up, and I love it.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with it, but I'm still going to sleep at like maybe 10 or 10:30. So I sleep like maybe 6 hours, and then I've been taking a siesta in the afternoons, like for only about 30 minutes. Because if you do too much, it can be detrimental. Mm-hmm. I've been experimenting with that, and that's been pretty interesting. I've noticed that like I'll sleep for 30 minutes in the afternoon and then immediately go to the gym, and I feel super hyped. But ideally, you want to be sleeping, at least 7 hours at night. And then if you can, go for a 20 or 30-minute nap in your office or wherever you are. I've even taken a little siesta in my car with AC running, just sleep for 30 minutes. That's where I am currently with my sleep. But you can really get really far into it if you want the best possible sleep.
Awesome. Great stuff. Well, we're kind of running short on time for today, so we're going to go ahead and push into picks. Do you run your own freelance business? Or maybe you're thinking about picking up some business on the side? Well, then you need FreshBooks. FreshBooks is the quickest and easiest way to get invoices out to your clients. It's easy to use. It works anywhere, available from any device, on the desktop, iPhone, iPad, Android, and all of your data is backed up and secure. And it makes it really easy to get organized and get paid. You'll be tracking time, logging expenses, and invoicing your clients in no time. You can also save time billing, freeing up several days per month to focus on the work that you love, and you get paid faster. FreshBooks customers are paid on average 5 days faster because there's a link on the invoice that says pay me now. And it's a great way to grow your business. Plus, FreshBooks is offering a 30-day trial. That's right, 30-day trial if you try them out. So go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Once again, for a 30-day trial, go to gofreshbooks.com/devchat and enter devchat in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Amy, do you have some picks for us?
I do. I have 2 different GitHub repos I'm going to pick. So the first one, Tracy Lee, who we've had on a couple times, she tweeted this out last week. But if you're looking for, it looks like it's called Women Tech Speaker Organizers. So if you're looking for women who speak at a lot of conferences, or you want to add people to the list, that's pretty much why I'm mentioning it. I think the more people that we get added to the list, the better. And then the other thing I want to pick is kind of scrolling through things I've starred recently. So, because I've been talking a lot about CSS lately, so it's just repo CSS pro tips, but there is tons and tons and tons of good little pro tips in here if you just want to kind of scroll through the repo. So I'll put links to both of those in the show notes, and that's it for me.
Awesome. I'm going to +1 your pick from Tracy. I didn't know she had a list, but when I put on Angular Dev Summit, somebody pointed out to me that I didn't have as many women as they would like. And
well, it's hard. It's a hard problem because there's not as many women to pick from.
Yeah. Well, and I'll freely admit that I don't know. I'm not fully convinced that it's a major problem that needs to be solved. But if you give me a list of qualified speakers, I'll contact them. So, that helps. And then the people who do, really deeply care about diversity, you have a conference that they want to attend as well. So, I think being angry and militant about diversity is counterproductive, but I also think being completely the other way, where you're angry and militant against diversity, is also counterproductive. So.
Yep, group hug.
Let's just not be militant about anything.
Yeah. So
yes, please.
Yeah, but and then the other thing is it's definitely a conversation worth having. So yeah, I appreciate the work, and reach out to go find them if you organize a conference. Go find those folks. But yeah, she was a big, huge help to me for Angular Dev Summit, and we got some terrific speakers from her from that. I'm going to go ahead and jump in with a few picks myself. The first one is I have some glasses. We talked about kind of the blue light or screen light, and I don't wear these as often as I probably should, but they're Gunnar, Gunnar glasses, and they're blue blocker glasses, and so you wear them and they block some of the blue colors off of your monitors so that you don't have that coming at you as often or as much. And, a lot of people find that things like that help them wind down a little bit or transition off of looking at the screen when they need to, like JC was talking about. Another one is there's an app called Flux, and I think it's at fl.ux, and it also changes the warmth of your screen, so it makes it warmer colors toward the evening. The thing I think is funny is that I have a Windows machine and a Mac, and on the Windows machine, it makes the mouse, wherever the mouse is at, it glows bright blue, and then everything else is kind of a red or orange, and I don't know why that is. But it works pretty well, and I've been pretty happy about that. One other thing, this episode's going to come out a couple weeks after we record this, and I'm going to be pulling together more conferences. That's one of the reasons why I'm excited about this list, is so that I can reach out, because I do want to make sure that I'm including as many people as possible from as many backgrounds as possible. I think that is important. And so just keep an eye out. I'll probably have something up soon-ish. I was going to be putting on React Remote Conf this week as we record this, but I got my timeline messed up and I didn't get the speakers all lined up in time. So I'm going to be doing it toward the end of January. I'm going to do a Dev Summit like I've been doing the others, so the Angular Dev Summit and the Ruby Dev Summit, which means that if you want to come watch it for free, you can come watch it for free. If you want the recordings, then you can get an all-access pass and you get access to it. And that's going to be at React Dev Summit and jsdevsummit.com. And so the one will be at the end of January, and the other one's probably going to be sometime in March. So if you want to participate in those or come watch the talks and things, then let me know. And if you have somebody in particular that you like hearing from, let me know about that as well. JC, what are your picks?
So I have a few. Hopefully that's okay.
Yeah.
So first off, a couple of Netflix shows that I recently watched.
Nice.
American Vandal and The Confession Tapes. If you've heard of the podcast Serial, you'll probably really like American Vandal and probably Confession Tapes. But American Vandal is kind of like a TV version of Serial, but I mean, it's not following the same story, but it's very like Serial-esque. So that was pretty interesting. Because I've been listening to Serial also, so like I'm just getting like tons and stuff about crime in my life right now. And then The Confession Tapes is gut wrenching, and like I would like to say a pretty high tolerance for like despair, but I felt utterly in despair after most episodes of The Confession Tapes. That said, it is really good. It's basically, the premise is just it follows different stories about false confessions that were extracted from people who are, for the most part, wrongfully convicted and stuff. So
interesting.
It's kind of gut wrenching, but it's a good, it's only like 7 episodes. It's good. Second is there's a ring I got for my birthday a few weeks ago. There's a company called Qalo, Qalo, and they make these little like basically rubber wedding rings. And you can, one of the things about working out a lot is I have to take my ring off all the time, especially in the gym, because you can lose your finger if you have a ring on. And these are, they're rubber. I can leave them on all the time. They don't hurt to like, grab a dumbbell or a barbell or something while I have it on. So I love it. And they're only like $20. So like if something happens to it, you can just get a second one. And then lastly was, I know listeners are probably going to think this is kind of funny, but I actually, up until this past week, have never used Lodash in any project before. And I had to do some like multi-dimensional array sorting on like a whole bunch of different arrays and objects and stuff. And I wrote out like all these functions. That was at least 30 lines of code. And then I looked at Lodash, and what took me like 30 lines of code took Lodash 1 line. And I was just like, it was awesome. So, and it was just for like this kind of, this static site that was really only meant for one person. It's the public's not even going to see it. So I was just like, yeah, I'm getting that. So, yeah, Lodash is definitely a pick too.
Nice. You missed John David Dalton by like 2 or 3 weeks. We had him on not too long ago.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'll put a link to that show in the show notes as well. But yeah, so one last thing, and I usually ask this before the picks, but we were kind of in a time crunch, and I wanted to make sure everybody got picks before we did it. But if people want to follow up with what you're doing, especially with DevLifts, it sounds like you're catering to people like us. How do they connect with you that way? And then, your code as well.
Yeah. So, on pretty much, Twitter and GitHub, I'm JC Hiatt, Hiatt. And then for DevLifts specifically, we're on Twitter at DevLifts, DevLifts, and Instagram. And our site should be live by the time this airs. I just finalized the designs and working to get the everything like coded as quickly as possible. And that's devlifts.io. Right now, we actually are already doing, making plans for customers. We've just been doing orders through like Twitter DMs. So nice. if you're interested in something, just ping us on Twitter in a DM, even if you just want to learn more, or also I would like to plug our upcoming podcast in case anyone might want to anyone who's already into fitness would like to be interviewed and share how fitness has impacted them as a developer. Mm-hmm. So, and
that's also at devlifts.io.
Best way right now, it will be, and the best way right now, if not the website, is just through Twitter. Just DM us. Our DMs are open, so feel free to just ping us. You don't have to follow us to.
All right. Message us. Sounds terrific. Well, thank you for coming, JC.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up, and we will catch everybody in a week. Bandwidth for this segment is provided by CacheFly, the world's fastest CDN. Deliver your content fast with CacheFly. Visit CacheFly.com to learn more.